Thank you, Cantorzel. Your sound was going in and off for me. I don't know if it's my internet or your internet, but maybe someone can help. Was it my internet?
Doesn't
Okay.
look like it. Looks like it
It
was
was
mine.
your internet. Okay. So just before we begin, I don't know what can be done, but
Probably
anyway,
not much.
I just want to say to everyone, I'm really glad you're here this evening. Let's begin with the heart tap, as we do each time we gather, but especially tonight, as we perhaps go in gallery view and see the members of our community. We gather for an important evening. For, as you well know, we are witnessing an increase in anti-Semitism, not just in our nation, but in our world. We're also witnessing a steep decrease in the knowledge and awareness of the Holocaust. Even in our own country, in the past several months, we've seen members of the Proud Boys actually force their way into the Capitol, wearing T-shirts that said 6 million wasn't enough. We've seen a football team a short distance away name their favorite plays after Nazi death camps. We've witnessed a conspiracy theorist in Congress blaming the Rothschilds, Jewish family, for lasers that would start California forest fires. We've witnessed an internet filled with anti-Semitic hatred and Holocaust denial. And so, my friends, we gather. We gather tonight to remind ourselves of the important role that we play in the world. As a Jewish community, witnesses, and I say that with a deep sense of responsibility, witnesses to describe and remember the horrors committed not even a century ago, so that they may never happen again. And so I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank Rabbi Sherman, who for the last 2 years has been working with our TB Holocaust educator, Debbie Carden, on our Rescuing Hope intergenerational seminar, exploring themes of Judaism through the lens of the Holocaust. Rabbi Sherman's done an extraordinary job, and I think I speak for all of us in thanking him for working with our teens to help craft a beautiful ritual for us this evening, and for allowing us to adhere and fulfill what Emil Fackenheim once called the 614th commandment, and that is to remember. And so let's begin Yom HaShoah.
Perhaps, Rabbi, you'll give me a thumbs up if the sound is consistent. Shir lamalot esainai el heharim me'ayin yavo Ezri Ezri me'imaronai ose shamayim ba'aretz yitain lamot raglecha al yanum shomrecha hine lo yanum velo yishan shomer Yisrael Adonai shomrecha Adonai tzilcha al yad yeminecha Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka v'yareach balayla Adonai yishmorcha mikol ra yishmor et nafshecha Adonai yishmor tzidcha uvoecha me'ata ve'ad olam me'ata ve'ad olam
Rabbi Sissenwein shared, over the past 2 years, I've had the pleasure, along with our Holocaust educator, Debbie Cardin, to lead our Rescuing Hope seminar. And this seminar is a multi-generational learning experience exploring the ways in which our shared Jewish history, specifically how the Holocaust impacts our experience as Jews today. And we focused our learning on the themes of resistance and resiliency. And it was an extraordinary experience again this year. And we're grateful to the members of our cohort who are here tonight and to the Legacy Heritage Foundation that has made this possible for our community. And this evening, I'm thankful to many of our team participants in our seminar who will help lead our community in observance of this sacred day. And so I want to begin by inviting Olivia Frank to lead us in an opening kavanah, an opening intention.
We begin with silence, the silence of death, the silence after destruction. There are times when songs falter, when darkness fills life, when martyrdom becomes a constellation of faith against the unrelieved black space about us. There are no words to reach beyond the edge of night, no messenger to tell us the full tale. There's only silence, the silence of Job, the silence of 6 million, the silence of memory. Let us remember them as we link our silences.
Thank you, Olivia. And so we begin our formal ritual this evening with the lighting of 6 candles. And so I want to, maybe we can, Emily, spotlight Debbie Allen, and I want to invite Zach Rayleigh, a member of our class, and actually Deb as well, who's a member of our cohort. I'm going to ask you, Zach, if you will light the candles first, and then we'll read the intention.
Kindle these lights in memory of the 6 million Jews murdered by the Nazis and their collaborators. May the memory of the righteous be for a blessing. Zichronam livracha.
Amen. So as we return to gallery view, I want to invite Zach Gondelman, a member of our teen cohort, to lead us in the words of Eli, Eli.
Thank you, Rabbi. Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer leolam, hachol v'hayam, rishru shel hamayim, berak hashamayim, tfilat hadam, hachol v'hayam, rishru shel hamayim, berak hashamayim, tfilat hadam. Oh God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart. sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
Thank you, Zach. So as a part of our Rescuing Hope seminar, all of our teens are asked to write essays about an intergenerational experience they have had. And all of them are truly exceptional. And tonight we've asked Mimi Gottbetter to share her wonderful prose with us. So Mimi, please, thank you.
We sat in silence, but she held my hand close, and I knew her strength without words. Growing up, I was raised on Jewish food, bedtime prayers, and stories. Lots of stories. I've been lucky enough to hear and speak with more than a few Holocaust survivors in the past 18 years of my life. And so I've been instilled with the value of learning from the stories of those who came before me. So when I arrived at the small Holocaust museum in Haifa, that also serves as a retirement home for survivors, I was prepared to take on the role of the open listener, the wide-eyed granddaughter. In a cramped entryway, wrapped in colorful murals, I took a seat beside a resident, a woman with a blue scarf draped around her neck. I peered around as the other teens in my group leaned into the stories they were given by the residents sitting next to them. I smiled at the woman with the blue scarf, and I told her my name. She nodded, then simply took my hand. I let her hold me as I heard pieces of the stories that wafted in the air around me, and I waited in an unsettled stillness. I felt a wave of guilt wash over me with her silence. I knew no German, Yiddish, or Hebrew. Still, I knew I was meant to listen and soak up all her wisdom, to be a link in some grand chain of healing and connection with all the other young people who've stepped through those doors. Yet, it was a task made impossible by the coarse and heavy quiet pressing down on me. At some point, I eased into her silence, as the woman with the blue scarf smoothed out my qualms with her steady hold. I soon found myself holding her back with equal strength. I could sense the weight of her story without words, the many lives she had lived, the hands she had held before mine, and those hands that had been ripped away from hers. We sat together, existed together, and thus we listened. The calluses on her palm and her ocean-tide breath alone were a novel on resilience. There was no expectation of who we were meant to be in that moment, but our whole selves, present and awake and receptive. I recalled a Jewish teaching that compared a life to a whole universe, and I could feel it in her hands, the universe she held, and the way our worlds collided. I looked around at the many universes, the living stories in that room with wonder and gratitude. I uttered a thank you in my head to whatever force had brought me, the woman in the blue scarf, and everyone else to that moment. We are just where we need to be. Whether or not they held my hand, each person I encountered had touched my universe, and I theirs. In our stillness, there was no wisdom to impart or receive as I had expected. Our linked hands, the air, and the silence around us had no single direction. Rather, we were building something boundless, full, and mutual. We were expanding our universes in tandem. In that moment, the woman in the blue scarf did not share with me her blessings or her lessons, nor did she hold my hand alone, but instead we held each other's.
Mimi, thank you so much. There is a song that I feel grateful to bring to this community around this time of year called Rikma and Oshit that Mimi, I think, actually illustrates this idea of connectedness, that we are all connected beings through scarves, through tissues, and that no matter what happens, we always remain. in touch with those throughout space and time. So I'm thinking of your story as I sing these words. כשאמות משהו ממני ימות בך, ימות בך. כשתמות משהו ממך בי, משהו ממך בי ימות איתך, ימות איתך. כי כולנו, כן כולנו, כולנו רקמה אנושית אחת חיה, ואם אחד מאיתנו הולך מעמנו, משהו מת בנו, משהו נשאר איתו. אם נדע איך להרגיע, איך להרגיע את האיבה, אם רק נדע, אם נדע להשקיט את זעמנו על אף עלבוננו, לומר סליחה, להתחיל מההתחלה. כי כולנו, כן כולנו, כולנו רקמה אנושית אחת חיה, ואם אחד מאיתנו הולך מעמנו, אז משהו מת בנו, משהו נשאר איתו.
So I want to continue with this reading. Ethan Diamondstein, if you would unmute yourself as we share, I'll share the words on the screen. If you could lead us in this reading.
You who live secure in your warm houses, who return at evening to find hot food and friendly faces, consider whether this is a man who labors in the mud, who knows no peace, who fights for a crust of bread, who dies at a yes or a no. Consider whether this is a woman without hair or name, with no more strength to remember, eyes empty and womb cold as a frog in winter. Consider that this has been, I commend these words to you, engraved on your hearts, when you are in your house, when you walk on your way, when you go to bed, when you rise, repeat them to your children, or may your house crumble, disease render you powerless, your offspring avert their faces from you.
Thank you, Ethan. So 20 years ago, I arrived in Poland for the first time. Walking in Warsaw and Krakow, in camps and in cemeteries, I remember experiencing that often felt phenomena of seeing something in color that we once only knew in black and white. Thinking back to that moment, I remember feeling like I needed to learn how to color in those images that were in my head. I needed to understand what I was seeing. I needed to hear stories, study a culture. I needed to know people and places. That's how I was going to fill in the lines. And overwhelmed by the enormity of what I felt and saw, I decided I needed to find ways to listen, to stand witness, to more fully understand the magnitude of the Holocaust. And so I have tried over and over again to seek out the voices of survivors and hear their story and their family's story, which in 2021, 76 years after the end of the war, is harder and harder to do. And so we have to adapt. See, there's an important lesson that I've shared before in this moment, but it rings true tonight. In the book of Deuteronomy, there's a shift in word choice in the first chapters of the book. In Moses' retelling of the events of the past, of the wilderness, of Sinai, of Egypt, of Revelation, he changes the verbs from words of sight to words of hearing. A new generation of Israelites were on the verge of entering the promised land, and they needed a new mode to transmit and preserve the covenant, which their parents and grandparents had witnessed firsthand. This shift is from seeing and experiencing to hearing and telling. And this is one of our covenantal responsibilities today, to share memories and stories, not only to remember survivors who have died more recently, but also to honor the 6 million stories which abruptly ended. And our task is to make sure that the impact of the Holocaust is understood by those who will never meet a survivor, and to help all of us more fully understand what happened. And so it is with this shared responsibility and the mitzvah of bearing witness that I am full of gratitude to an extraordinary group of lay leaders who have worked tirelessly over the last year to create a sacred web page of witnessing on our TBE website. And on this brand new web page, which you received this morning via email, you can find histories of Holocaust survivors in our community documented by our Rescuing Hope team. And so before I turn it over to a few members of our team, I want to thank Dan Elbaum, Gloria Rose, Les Schwab, Mark Laufer, Rebecca Friedman, Janet Wertheimer, Teddy Friedman, and Saul Nathanson for their hard work in interviewing members of our community and their families. And I also want to express my gratitude to our communication team colleagues, Elise Lublin, and especially Laura Rosenthal, who truly helped make our vision a reality. And so Saul and Teddy will ask you to unmute yourselves. And I want to thank you both for being here tonight. Thank you for all of your hard work and sharing this truly sacred project with us.
There we go. Thank you, Rabbi. This is a solemn day. Yom HaShoah is an important connection between our world of comfort and security and the world of European Jewry that was nearly extinguished 80 years ago. It seems that today, with rising social tensions and the vilification of the other, the history of the Shoah echoes more loudly than ever. We all have an obligation to preserve the lessons of the Shoah, not just as Jews, but as members of a civilized society. Our TBE community has a relationship to many Holocaust survivor stories, and thus an opportunity to document, retell, and preserve these for future generations. Many of these stretch the bounds of what one would think could be endured with any semblance of sanity. These histories are personal, not academic, made even more so through direct testimony by the survivors and indirect retelling through their families. They are tales of horror, of awe, and of inspiration. On reflection, it would be a crime not to memorialize these important legacies for our community. And as a child of Holocaust survivors myself, I'm sure you can appreciate how much this legacy resonates with me personally. It's been an honor working on this project. That forms the background of our Rescuing Hope initiative. And I'll hand it over to Teddy.
Last year, the temple received a grant from the Legacy Heritage Fund. The temple wrote it up as a multi-generational Holocaust program. Throughout this meaningful program, we focused on personal stories and how we don't forget such tragedies and how not to forget them. At the end of this program, we were told to start to think about ways to honor the memory of those who survived and those who were tragically murdered. A small group of us decided to do some research on our temple's resources regarding the Holocaust. We found that there was not a written record of our temple's connection. So we set out on a mission to collect, highlight, preserve, and remember these important stories. We launched a series of interview sessions and ultimately gathered 14 Holocaust survivor stories related to TBE members. When we finished collecting these stories, we needed a way to show the whole community our findings. So we decided to make a website so we can have a platform to build off of, but still show all of you these incredible stories. I turn it now to Laura, who has made this dream of a digital database a reality, and she will guide you through this amazing website.
Thank you, Teddy. I'm going to share my screen. Perhaps some of you already had a chance to look through this page and see the amazing work that the Rescuing Hope team has put together. So I'm just going to show you some of the ways you can view the stories that they've preserved. At the top of this page, you'll see a quotation from Sam Weinreb. I think it's a great way to start remembering as a community the need to look at these stories. So at the top of the page, you can scroll through each individual story and click on the read more to see their full recorded written story appear. If you click on read all survivor histories, it will take you to this page where you can scroll and see them collectively. If you click on the read more under one of their names, you can see their whole documented story that our Rescuing Hope team worked so hard to put down. Scrolling further, we have collected recordings of survivors from our community. Some of these recordings were shared at institutes all over the country, and our team has found the recordings and put them together on this page so you can scroll through and watch each one individually. We also will be adding to the page with videos that the community, as we have more programming, we'll record it and we'll put it here about either our experiences documenting these stories, or if we have speakers come to the community and share their experiences, we'll add. Finally, I want to show you, we've put together a map, and it shows you all of the places where survivors in our community were originally from. And if you click to expand it, you can click on the different pins to see each person's home city and get an introduction to their story and click to see their whole. So I think the map in particular is interactive and presents a really powerful visual of where they all came from. We also have resources that you can access, which includes a list of publications from survivors in our community. Our page concludes with a little bit about the Rescuing Hope seminar, and if you are interested in participating in the next cohort, has information about how you can do that. So I will give the microphone back to Rabbi Sherman. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. I think I'm going to pass it to Saul, correct? Let's see. Saul disappeared on my screen, so that's okay. Laura, Teddy, and Saul, thank you.
I'm here now, Rabbi.
There you are. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Laura. And we owe a debt of gratitude to Elise Lublin and Laura for their creativity and hard work getting this site up and running. We truly hope it's going to be a place for people to learn and connect with the legacies of those relations to our congregation today. And I also want to thank the entire Rescuing Hope team. I'm pleased that Rabbi Sherman mentioned them earlier, but they all conducted the interviews and documented all the stories, and I think they did a fabulous job. And finally, this is a work in process. So if anyone on this call or beyond has stories to add or share, please be in touch with myself, the rabbi, any member of the team, and we'd love to hear about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Saul. Thank you, Teddy. Thank you, Laura. I'm incredibly proud of this project, and I hope you will spend time exploring and learning and sharing these stories, for these stories may have started in these narratives in tragedy, but each of them have found their own way to Temple Beth Elohim. And to me, what is most remarkable about this gift from TBE to all of those who are seeking to learn about stories of individuals who survived the Holocaust and memorializing members of their families who did not, what's really remarkable to me is that anybody in the future doing a research project or wanting to learn more about the Holocaust could find their way to Temple Beth Elohim's website and our site of Holocaust Remembrance. And to me, that is a really special and important gift that we can offer to the community and the world. And so I believe in the power of our community to bring forward more stories of resilience and faith as we remain steadfast in our belief of the importance and power in sharing from one generation to the next. Ani ma'amin.
Ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin. Emuna shelema, emuna shelema, beviat hamashiach, beviat hamashiach ani ma'amin, ve'af al pi sheitmameya im kol ze ani ma'amin, ve'af al pi sheitmameya im kol ze ani ma'amin.
Thank you, Cantor Zell. These words, Ani Ma'amin, I believe, are so powerful to hear. These words, I believe, spoken at a time of darkness, remind us of the hope that we still are able to see in this world. So I want to share these words that were found on a cellar wall in Germany, written by a person hiding from the Nazis. I believe in the sun even when it is not shining. I believe in love even when feeling it not. I believe in God even when God is silent. So these powerful words will lead us into the prayer, El Malei Rachamim, God full of compassion. A prayer that helps us remember our people individually and also as a collective, recalling their names, the names of our departed loved ones, in a way that they will not go unnamed or not go forgotten. So I will invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we recite and hear these sacred words.
El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamitzei Menucha Nechona,
תחת כנפי השכינה. במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים. את נשמות 6,000,000 אחינו ואחיותינו שנהרגו על קידוש השם. בעל הרחמים יסתירם בסתר כנפיו לעולמים. ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתם. אדוני הוא נחלתם. וינוחו בשלום על משכבם, ונאמר אמן.
Fully compassionate God on high, to our 6 million brothers and sisters murdered because they were Jews, grant clear and certain rest with you in the lofty heights of the sacred and pure, whose brightness shines like the very glow of heaven. Source of mercy, forever enfold them in the embrace of your wings. Secure their souls in eternity. They are yours, Adonai. May they rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
Amen. You may be seated. So at this time, on Yom HaShoah, we recite a special mourner's Kaddish. These words interspersed within our Aramaic, we acknowledge within these words so many places where death occurred during the Holocaust. And we use this day as a collective yortzeit. For so many who died in the Shoah, we don't know their exact yortzeit. And so tonight we hold all of their memories, their stories, those unique neshamot within ours. And so at this time, we're going to open the chat box, and I invite you to place names of loved ones or of extended family members that you wish to remember this evening. And as we join together, remembering so many, we join together in these sacred words, and I ask you to rise if you are able. Let's join together. Yitkadal, Auschwitz, Vitkadash, Lodz, Shemei Rabbah, Ponar, Bialma Divra Chirute, Babiyar, Viamlich Malchute, Maidanek, Bechayechon Uviomechon, Birkenau, Uvchaye Dechol Beit Israel, Kovno, Ba'agala Uvizman Kariv Yanauska, V'imru Amen. Yehe Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'alam Ulmei Omaya. Yitbarach V'yishtabach Theresienstadt. V'yitpa'ar V'yitramam Buchenwald. V'yitnaseh V'yithadar Treblinka. V'yitale V'yithalal Vilna. Shemei de Kudsha Brichu Bergen-Belsen. Le'ela Mauthausen. Min kol birchata v'shirata dachau. Tushbechata v'nechemata Minsk. De Amiran bi'alma Warsaw. V'imru Amen. Yehe shalama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. So Emily, if we can share.
Oseh shalom imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, Shalom Aleinu ve'ako Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. 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 Shalom Aleinu ve'ako Yisrael.
Thank you, Violet. We will be concluding soon, but a brief story before we go. Philip Mueller was a Jewish slave laborer in Auschwitz who was kept alive because he would actually help take the corpses from the gas chambers to the crematoria. He was one of the very few to survive, and he later described his time in the camps, and he described one group of Czech Jews who were being marched towards the gas chambers and were told what was about to happen to them. And he said their voices grew subdued and tense, their movements forced, their eyes stared as though they had been hypnotized, when suddenly a voice began to sing. Others joined in, and the sound swelled into a mighty choir. They sang first the Czech national anthem, and then the Hebrew song Hatikva. Enraged SS men tried to halt the singing by beating the Jews into submission, Mueller later said. It was as if they regarded the singing as a last kind of protest, which they were determined to stifle if they could. But the SS were unable to stop them. To be allowed to die together was the only comfort left to these people, he said. And when they sang Hatikva, they were glancing into the future. But it was a future which they would not be allowed to see. To me, the bearing of my countrymen seemed an exemplary gesture of national honor and national pride which stirred my soul. Overwhelmed by feelings of remorse, Mueller shared that he actually tried to join the group as they entered the gas chamber. But the people pushed him back. A woman implored him, "Your death won't give us back our lives. That's no way. You must get out of here alive. You must bear witness to our suffering and to the injustice done to us." We stand this day to remember, to be witnesses. And so let us now rise to join together in the singing of Hatikva, a reminder of the importance of the Jewish state of Israel, and a reminder of our eternal hope to bring love and compassion to our world. We join together.
Kolor balevav pnima, nefesh Yehudi homiya, ulvate mizrach kadima, ayin letzion tzofia. Od lo avta tikvateinu, hatikva bat shnot alpayim, liot am chofshi be'artzenu.
So maybe seated. So I wanted just to conclude by just extending my gratitude to all of our participants in our service tonight. Thank you so much. I wanted to make sure that we place in our chat box the link to the website, which you can explore and deepen our connection to members of our community. I also want to make sure that we note that on Sunday at 10 a.m., we'll Zoom in from Israel with Holocaust survivor Abraham Peter, who will share his story of survival and ultimately his hand in helping bring Apollo 13 back to Earth. And so I hope that you will join us on Sunday morning. And finally, if your family or someone you know from within our TBE community has a story from the Holocaust that you would like to have documented on our Rescuing Hope page, please be in touch with us. We could not reach everybody in this first gathering of stories, so please share them with our team and we will set up an interview. And also, perhaps if you don't have a story, but you have an artifact or a ritual item that came to your family from during the time of the Holocaust, we'd like to document those as well. And so if you have something that you'd like to share on our website, please let us know. We would love to do that. I'm so grateful for everybody for being here tonight and marking this sacred day in community. Thank you, everyone. Cantor, could we end with a little nigun?
Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. 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 Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael 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 Chai.
Erev Tov, everyone. Have a good night.